So, hello everybody, good evening, good morning, good night. It's been a while since we've been together. Finally, after I think 2 years or so that we started to come out of the COVID, came back in, some volleyball started back again, and then back and forth and everything. But now I think the volleyball is restarting and we are enjoying everything. So finally we have a chance to meet together again and to talk about volleyball and to talk about some very interesting information. I decided to start this series with some interviews and some webinars with members from the refereeing commission from the FIVB to learn a little bit what's going on inside, what's the plans, what's happening in the commission inside. And tonight, I think we'll be talking about how we can all work together to get more and more women into officiating. And we'll be visiting with Pati Rolf, our good friend, and that we've talked already for several times. She's the director of the officials for the USA Volleyball, secretary of NOSECA Refereeing Commission, and member of the FIVB Rules of the Game and Refereeing Commission. So Pati, it's all yours.
Well, I mean, I really wanted to make sure that, Roy, for me coming on, my role, particularly as director of USA Volleyball officials, right? I mean, we just spoke this morning, there was a group of us, our season starts on September 1st, a new membership season, right? So we go through the fall and the spring, and then summer for everyone. Our summer is in June and July, and that's when we have our national championships are May, June, and July for all of our age divisions and our senior adults. So we have only about a month in August where we have, we try to call it downtime, where we're not traveling, and then we're back at it again 1st of September. So we're planning our next year, especially now it's the second year coming out of the pandemic. Like other countries, we shut down as well. We didn't open back up pretty much until, and I would say that we maybe opened sooner than most. As you guys know, America is a wild place. So we call, we are a little bit like the Wild West. I try to remind people from other countries when they think about America or United States, that the United States is a place, and I was just in Canada this week for the last week for the Pan American Cup for men seniors, and both Canada and the United States were places people went from other countries that when they were being, I use the word persecuted, or not allowed to practice their religion, or maybe not given opportunities to advance or take care of their families way back in the day. And even now, they left their countries, and many of them came to the United States and Canada. Or other parts of the world, to be honest with you. But the United States, was a place many people came. And so back in the 1800s, 1700s, many people came. And I always say to people, be careful, because like Chicago is the second biggest Polish city in the world. I went to a game in Chicago at the Sears Center, 22,000 seats. And when I was standing in line with an international referee friend of mine who had invited me, I had no idea that I was in the United States. There were, out of the 22,000 seats, 18,000 were with Polish fans. When I was in the stadium, everybody was wearing red and white. I thought it was hilarious. There was only 4,000 United States red, white, and blue people, and then there were 18,000 red and white people. And I thought, this is the best. Like, it's just great. I mean, such a huge Polish population. And I didn't realize Scottish people. There's the international Scottish games are not in Scotland. The Scottish games, the World Scottish Games, you guys, are not in Scotland. They're in North Carolina. And when I went to them, I'm like, why are you having, to the Scots, I said, why are you having in the US? They go because we live in Scotland. We wanted to travel. And apparently one of the biggest populations of Scottish people is in North Carolina. And so they put the Scottish games in these mountain region in North Carolina, and they camp out and they have a blast. And I thought, that is a riot, because they all said, we don't want to have them in Scotland. We want to travel and go on vacation. So I remind people, many people from many cultures live in the United States, right? So how do you get Germans and Scots and Polish and Native American and African American, all these people, both good and bad, were brought in different ways, right? Slavery brought in a ton of our African American friends. in a terrible way. But now that they, we're working on many things to bring fairness across all cultures within our country. And we have some rebellions, I call it, some arguing, but we have a political system, however challenging it is, it creates great opportunities for people. And, I always say in the United States is where, even struggles for women, trying to bring fairness to women. Officiating, we have a very low population of women, and we call them our underrepresented groups: African American, Asian American, Native American, our Hispanic groups. Not a lot of referees, which during a referee shortage doesn't make any sense to me. So, a big thing that we chat about across the world, but particularly within NORCECA, and now a very big topic in FIVB is the shortage of, women that we just don't have women. And in America, we don't have women, but we particularly don't have women and our underrepresented groups. Like our African American population in officiating is only like 5%, Asian American 3%. And it's terrible because with a shortage of referees in our country, and this is what I try to describe to my friends across the world. And I was recently at a very big summit in Denver, Colorado. It's the National Association of Sports Officials. It brings together all the leaders and all the officials from every sport. So I'm on that board, and I got a chance to sit with Super Bowl referees, NFL referees, Major League Baseball folks, basketball, Final Four referees, and American football or soccer that you guys have. We call it, of course, soccer, which we still can't quite figure out the football term, but we work on it. We're not very bright in the United States sometimes. But all these referees were together, and we have these huge shortages. And I tried to tell them the shortages we're having in like American football and baseball. We're not having high school games. High school is like 18-year-old and unders. For us, it's called high school. We're canceling games because we don't have enough referees, which is terrible. Like, just can't happen. And we're trying to figure out, when we're talking about this with our friends in other sports, I say pretend that you have 150 basketball courts in one place. And they look at me and they go, we can't even imagine that. There's no way to have 150 basketball courts. I go, so take the number of referees it would take to put on a tournament with 150 basketball courts or 150 football fields or 150 baseball fields. You can't do it. And thus you have a referee shortage. But our referee shortage in volleyball is like amplified, because in the United States, because we have these huge convention centers and we can have these portable courts, we host events, let's say in April, that has 150 courts in Indianapolis. But then there's another tournament the same weekend in Florida with 160 courts. And there's another tournament the same weekend in Boston with 120 courts. There's another tournament in Seattle with 120 courts. And it goes on and on. We had one weekend last year where we had 5 major events in one weekend that had over 120 courts. So where do you find the referees? And the reality is we don't have enough. And when people say, well, instead of complaining, I always say, instead of complaining, give me a solution. Like, let's talk about solutions, right? So when you talk about solutions, our solutions are find where we're lacking. Like, what don't we have? Well, we don't have women, and we don't have some of our underrepresented groups. Let's just pick one. Let's say our Hispanic American population. We have tons and tons in the southern states. Why aren't they reffing? And we have to get them to ref, because first of all, they're our friends. Second of all, they're going to be great refs. And third, we don't have enough refs. So let's aggressively go recruit them. And the question is, how do you recruit? A lot of people say to me, well, women don't want to ref. And I burst into laughter, because it's the funniest thing I've ever heard. I go, women don't want to ref. He goes, yeah, we send out an email saying, hey, we need more refs, but none of them email us back. And I go, first of all, women aren't brought up that way. That's one of the biggest things I want to start with a conversation with, is like, to Roy, you and the group, is people think that when you send an email, to a mass email to a bunch of people, that some woman's going to write back and say, yeah, I want to ref. No woman does that. Now, I did it because I'm not normal, but most women are not like that. Women, and Roy, if I'd ask you one thing, and maybe, hopefully you're the right guy to ask, but maybe you're the wrong guy. But when you got married, okay,
I can't
tell me
remember.
how that,
It's a blank.
yeah, well, I think you're going to remember, like, did you ask your wife, or did your wife propose to you? How did that work?
I surprised her. We got married in the States, and I surprised her one weekend, and I told her we're getting married this weekend.
Okay, so perfect. I'm glad you said that. My husband as well said, I want to get married. I said, I'll think about it, because I didn't want to just jump at it, right? So I did think about it. I was pretty young then. I was only 23 years old, 22 years old. So the point being is that women want to be asked, not in an email that goes to 100 people. A woman wants to get someone pick up the phone and say, hey, Karen, I want you to ref for me in Norseka. I want you to ref for me in FIVB. I want you to ref for me in Israel. And they want to be asked, because you know why women want to be asked? Because they want to know that you actually want them to ref. I would never, and I say this all the time, the guys will go out. They'll go out, Patty, how come you didn't, how come you didn't come out with us? How come you didn't, whatever. I'll say, did you invite me? They go, no, but you know to come. I go, no, I don't come unless I'm invited. I don't go anywhere unless I'm invited. Why? Because what happens if they don't want me there? What happens if it's guys' night? And sometimes it is guys' night. So I always say women in general have a requirement. Most women, they want to be invited, because they want to know, Roy, that when you invite them to referee for your college, for your federation, they want to know that you're serious about them. When I call you and say, Roy, I want you to work for me, you know that I'm serious about you, or I wouldn't have called you. So this is so important. This is one of the basic tenets of women, is they have to like get an actual email that says, hey, Patty, we've heard about you. We think you're great. We really want you to come and work for us. Or like a job, when you apply for a job, many people just apply for jobs. I rarely apply for a job. I most want people to come and ask me, hey, Patty, are you interested in this position? We're interested in you. And more likely will I give up my world to do this job. Reffing is unique, because most of us cannot make a living reffing. I tried for 6 years to make a living just reffing, and Roy, I was poor. I was broke. I tried. I thought, okay, I'll do bigger and bigger games. I was still broke. Then I did the biggest games you could do, and I remained broke. So one of the smart supervisors for FIB said, Patty, you cannot give up your work. You have to have a regular job. So I went and got this job. I found this job. They actually asked me. I said, I'd love to apply. I applied. So women in particular, they have to give up a lot when they leave their families. I've been to 2 major events in the last 6 weeks. I've been gone for 20 days out of the last 60 days. That's a big commitment for my family. I mean, you heard my mother's here. My husband's taking care of my mother, not his mother. How many husbands would watch a mother, an old lady who doesn't know who he is, who can be a little bit crabby. My mom is a little bit crabby now that she has Alzheimer's. And if you know about Alzheimer's, those of you guys maybe that don't, Alzheimer's patients who had advanced Alzheimer's, they could be warm and loving, which my mother was. She never swore. She was always sweet and kind. And now there are moments when she's hateful. She says horrible things. And she often asks my husband, why in the heck, and she uses swear words. I won't swear here, but she says swear words and says, when is that blah, blah, blah going to leave my house? And she's talking to me. It's hilarious. She's trying to kick me out of my own house. And my husband, who's incredibly, for some reason, she really loves my husband. And he's given up his job to care for her. I mean, how many women have husbands that will stop working and care for the children or their mothers or their wife's mothers during these challenging times when they're off officiating or working? Many of our women are single or have no children because it's hard to referee and also have a marriage and have children and take care of other people, because when they leave and go on these long trips for these sometimes 10 days, 12 days, 20 days, who's going to take care of the family? Many of them are having their mothers come and care for the children when they're gone, but many women don't have those things. So that's a little long discussion about the challenges women have, but I would also say it's the challenges men have. I'm having more of my male friends say to me, my male reffing friends, that this is funny. They say to me, they go, Patty, I cannot go on this trip. I said, hey, are you going whatever to this big event? They go, Patty, I cannot. My wife said, any more trips? Finished. And I go, uh-oh, you better stay home. So even wives now are getting tired of their husbands being gone for months. Last year, I was gone from May 22nd. I came home for about 10 days in July. So I left in May, came home in July for 10 days, and then I left again until August 9th. I mean, how many men and women can do that? It's very, very difficult, especially if there's children involved, because it's so much pressure on the spouse who's caring. So this discussion about recruitment, I would also, I would offer the idea of what our referees have to go through to referee, right? It's an honor to referee, but it's also the reality when we hire people, we have to know that we're honored that they're working for us. In the United States, I've taken a new approach with referees. I tell them I thank them all the time. And I'm so grateful that, for example, Zach's here. There's an American referee that's on with us, Zach McCray. Zach, I want to make sure Zach knows that when he comes and works a national championship for us, we are so honored and grateful that he's helping us. He's helping us at our event. So I know he's making sacrifices with his family. And we need to make sure that when they're working for us, they realize that we're grateful for their help. And this element of like, how can we help enhance the experience and make it easier, be more organized, get them in a situation where they can be gone. And then when they get back home, they're not exhausted, tired, and the worst husband ever when they come home from an event because we've worn them out. These are all the challenges we face in recruiting. Now, people might say, well, and this is what happened too at this summit we had. They say, well, we have plenty of referees in FIVB. We have lots of great referees in FIVB. Yeah, you do right now. But right now at the lowest level, the beginning level of refereeing, where they're learning, you're getting new referees in Israel, new referees in the United States, new referees in Brazil. This beginning level, the numbers are smaller now. There's not as many. So now our pool is smaller. And as they go up, you're going to lose some because they won't be able to do it based on, they don't want to give up their life, right, with their children. They don't want to be gone. The schedule is too much. Then your group is going to get so small that the level of the quality of your referees is going to be reduced. I call it like players. The United States is doing well right now because we have a huge pool of young players because we've recruited really well the last 5 years. They've created this new national team development program where they have recruits out recruiting young kids all across the country. Then they put them in these camps all across the country. And then they build it up and they have this really wide pyramid so that when they get to that elite level of, let's say, the Olympic Games, as you saw, we had 2 major players get hurt during the Olympics, yet the backup player was still very strong. And that's because he's got such a huge pool of top players from all these universities that he's got backups. We don't have backups right now for referees. So once this top tier group starts to age out at 60 or just retire early, which I did, I retired early, you're going to have just a small pool of referees, especially women at the bottom, and you're going to have a hard time getting them up to the top. It's just going to be challenging. So in the United States, we're in big trouble. I mean, we are in big trouble in our country. We have events in volleyball where we do not have enough referees and coaches are having to referee. So we are really in an emergency plan here to figure out how to recruit, how to pay better and enhance the experience, and then how to go out and get those younger kids who are playing, like you have in Israel. Every country has children playing. How do we get those children to start reffing and then stay in reffing once they are done playing? That is the trick. Or coach, women and coaches. We don't have women coaches. How do we get those young kids, women who are playing, to go into coaching? The final thought here before you and I have more of a discussion. In the United States, we broke all records on membership with children this last year. Out of COVID, we had more children playing than we ever had. We had 370,000 children playing. That number is only going to continue to go up in the United States. Children want to play volleyball. I think because it's not a contact sport, they're not banging into each other like American football or basketball. They like the game. Everybody gets to touch the ball, unlike other sports like baseball. If you're playing baseball, you may or may not get to field the ball. You may not get to bat in an inning, right? It gets a little bit, I like playing baseball because I love being with my buddies. And every once in a while, if I can whack a ball out of the park, that's what I like to do. But I'm okay with the downtime. But volleyball is you're always playing, right? Always you have a chance to play the ball. That's why I think it's going to become one of the most popular sports in the world. Right now, it's the most popular team sport in the United States. Most people don't realize that. Volleyball surpassed every other team sport in the United States for young children And now we are the most popular team sport. More children are playing volleyball than any other team sport in our country, because
even more than football, I guess. And
yes,
even.
Yep. It
Really?
just happened 2 years ago. Yep. And we think it's because of this non-contact issue. Children love the game because, for example, in basketball, I played basketball, but sometimes 2 or 3 great players, you never get the ball, right? You never get to shoot. Volleyball, you can't hide because that team is hitting the ball at you. You're going to play it. And I think because of this idea of everybody gets to play and contact the ball, it's more of a team game. You aren't running and hitting people, or you're not getting banged around like in American football. I think all these things have led to it being the biggest sport there is. Now, the question is, we have almost 350,000 girls playing volleyball in America, in the United States. How do we get them to coach and ref? And, for example, to be an athletic director, to work at a university and run an athletic department, or work in a high school as the sports administrator, or get on a board and support a board and get more women involved. These are all the really difficult things that we have to work on in the U.S. and I think in NORCECA, particularly, and also in FIVB. We just don't have the numbers to bring up the quality. It's a final thing, I promise, and then we'll talk about something else. I try to describe officiating like athletes. We're all athletes. We're just a different kind of athletes. So referees are just like athletes. We've limited the number of quality athletes that we're having in because we aren't actively recruiting women. Like, we're not aggressively going out and saying, hey, we want you to play for us. So, can you imagine not having China, their top player? I remember reffing her when she was 16 in a world championship. She was 16 years old. Can you imagine deciding, no, we don't want her. We don't want women. I mean, you're losing women who could be literally the best players in the world because we're just not recruiting them aggressively enough. And I'm not telling you it's easy. I mean, even in the US, we're struggling, and we're still trying to figure out, okay, we're trying to do new methods. We're trying to think outside the box. We're clearly not doing what we need to do recruitment. And I've been here 5 years and we haven't changed our numbers. So we haven't been doing the job we need to do. And we've got to try to think outside the box and go to the children and say, ask the children, how can we get you to ref? What do we need to do to get you to work for us? And they're telling me, first, I want to act like you want me to come. 2, I need to have some control over my schedule. I need to have some freedom. People want freedom. And 3, you need to pay me. That is another one. I need to have, I need to have fun. I need to be paid, and I need to have some freedom on my schedule. And we're trying to work on a system this year. We're starting a recruiting campaign here in the United States on how to recruit the children to come work for us. And of course, with those children, hopefully we'll have a large number of women wanting to try officiating who have not done it yet. So my thoughts are, we have to pretend these athletes that we're recruiting are just like athletes that are going to be players. We're recruiting players to officiate. We need women to officiate because some of our best officials are going to be women, just like they are players. We have top players that are playing volleyball. We see them, we ref them every day. We have top players that are men. I saw them this weekend, incredible male players, but we need both of them, top women, top men, playing, officiating, coaching, because that's when we'll have the best talent as referees, as coaches, as players. Otherwise, we limit half the population of not being able to participate and really not honoring the game and having all these great people really advancing the game for us. Because if we're going to be the biggest sport in the world, which I believe we can be, then we need to get more people involved from the different genders, the different cultures, the different countries, and really have this huge worldwide push to advance the sport and make it one of the biggest sports in the world. And I know some people laugh about that, but you should see what's happening here. I mean, all across Poland's, clearly doing things. Brazil, United States at some of our events, just gigantic crowds we're having, huge commitments. Last year in our women's Final Four, we had 1.3 million people watching the game the night of the Final Four, the national championship college game. We had 1.3 million. We broke all records. The only team that had more people watching on a nationally televised games was one football game, one pro football game. And it wasn't by much more. And the other 3 pro football games that were on that night, that volleyball beat out. We exceeded the numbers. So it is becoming a major viewer game for our American United States fans. And in the past, we didn't have the viewership. Now we're getting dedicated viewership from our national television. So that's kind of like a little bit of a, my thoughts on some of the major issues I believe are affecting both FIVB, NORCECA, and all of our countries in a sense, right?
Well, I wanted to ask you, you said that you are now in a shortage, and a big shortage in the United States. Is it something new that it became such a shortage, or it grew over the years and just...
It grew. Yes, it grew over the year, right? We saw it happening 10 years ago. We saw our numbers dropping. But our events still were holding because, they weren't as big, because we didn't, our population of teams that were playing was still, I would call it manageable. But now, because of the ability and our kind of advancements of courts, we can put in one place 200 courts, 250 courts. It's insane. There's an event in Florida that has well over 220 courts in one place. And then the fact that there are so many courts now that events can host these major tournaments. And so the fact that our numbers have been stable, they haven't been growing. And then now recently, because of the pandemic, we've lost a lot of people. A lot of our senior referees have decided to retire. And every year we have more and more people retiring, or people that used to work a lot of events are not doing it anymore. They are saying, no, I now know what it feels like to be home with my family. Many of us never, I never took vacation. I was always traveling. I never did things with really the family. I very rarely went on vacation. I was always reffing or coaching or doing volleyball stuff. Now I had the pandemic hit and I'm stuck at home now. And I'm thinking to myself, I got to be honest with you, Roy, there were like 6 months in, I was like, this is the best. I still had a job now. I was lucky. I was able to keep a job. Some of my friends lost jobs. I was able to keep my job, but I thought, this is the best. I get to be with my granddaughter all the time. I get to be with my children. I get to go hiking. I get to go on, I get to go on a weekend. I actually have a weekend to myself with my family. I mean, that was unheard of. I was never home ever on weekends. And all of a sudden I go, this is awesome. I get to be with, especially with my granddaughter. And then I started deciding, no, I'm not going to be gone every weekend. I said, I'm not going to do it anymore. So I stopped. I actually started blocking my schedule and saying no, which I'd never done. And I think this is what's happening too in the United States is people are starting to do that. They're saying, I'm only going to work so much and then I'm going to enjoy my family. I'm going to take my vacation. Life is short. I think we lost a lot of people. I don't know what happened in Israel, but I'm telling you what, in the United States, a lot of people passed away. I lost 2 brother-in-laws. Passed away within a month of each other from COVID. We lost a lot of family members through aging and through COVID deaths and just weird things. I mean, we've had people having heart attacks and strokes in my families, our 2 families. We've got big families. And then a lot of us were like, life is short. My husband, he went on a trip to see his family up in Alaska here about 2 months ago because I think we're seeing, life is short. And people are starting to not referee every single weekend. So I think these numbers, again, like you said, before people were reffing a lot. Now they're saying, no, I'm not going to be gone as much. The United States is suffering a huge shortage right now. This year, the first year, we had not enough referees at our national championships. So the only way to describe it is pretend we have a NORCECA Pan American Cup and we can't get enough referees to go. That's insane.
But then you say that your volleyball is breaking. I mean, the youth and the children are breaking records by having more and more people, players, and more involved inside.
Yes,
it does not affect the need or the willing of them, some of them, to come to officiate as well.
That's correct. They are not coming. And the question is why, Roy? I mean, why are the children, or let's say the players across the world that are playing, maybe high school, and they go off to university, or maybe after high school, they just go get jobs. Why aren't they doing some reffing on the side, right? I think there could be a couple of things. We're surveying the children. We're asking the children, hey, why don't you want to ref? They're like, why would I want to ref and get yelled at? That's many of the children are saying, I'm not going to ref these youth groups, these youth club events, and get screamed at by parents. And by the way, in the United States, it's bad. It's really bad. So we're starting to control behavior. We're having what's called this Policy of no harassment. Zero tolerance is another key, a kind of word that we use. But we're now going to do signage this year and have signs up for parents that enter one of our national championships saying there will be zero tolerance for yelling, and we're using the word kindness. If you cannot show kindness or mutual respect or sportsmanship for our referees, we're going to ask them to leave, because children are saying, and my daughter did it. It's one of my standard stories. My daughter refereed 2 club events over a course of 2 weekends in the summer after she got certified. And then she did it twice. And she looked at me after the second time. I was actually there reffing as well. And she looked at me, she goes, "Mom, this is the dumbest thing in the whole world. I am not reffing anymore. What dummy would ref and get yelled at? Like, why would I want to stand up here and get yelled at all day long?" She goes, "I quit." And she was done. She never reffed again. So children, I don't think are as dumb as us, you and I, Roy. They're a little bit smarter than we are. And when they're and I would say that at kids events, it's the worst right now for us in America. In the United States, it's bad. I don't know what happened. It's like Canada. Canada is struggling with this parent behavior as well, like hockey events, youth events, that parents, like they don't understand these are children and that this behavior in front of their children is bad. And I was at the Pan American. Our fans were amazing. The Canadian fans were amazingly polite and respectful. Even the coaches and players, exceptional behavior out of our coaches and players. But the problem is that's not being reflected in our youth. And so, there's an element is that we have to demand it in our youth sports, because these children, like you're saying, how can 370 girls be playing, or 350,000 girls be playing? And we have in USA Volleyball, we have about 30,000. We're growing the game for boys right now. How can we have that many girls and we can't get them to ref or coach? Roy, they're not coaching. Like, why aren't they coaching? Coaching's a blast. How come we can't get them to coach? And so these are huge, huge hurdles. And someone said to me once at that conference, by the way, super funny story. I was sitting next to a pro football player who was a pro football ref, amazing guy, African-American gentleman. And someone said to him, like, this older white guy, and I mean this in a good way, because our big population of refs in the US is old white guys. They're all over 50. 60, our average age of referees in the United States right now is 60. That's our average age. We're senior citizens. We got our AARP card, you guys. AARP is the Association of Retired Peoples. And it's a card we get when we're 50, but 60 is pretty old. And that's our average age. And one of the old guys, white guys, said to him, "Hey, how do we as old white guys," and he said this, "get more refs?" And he goes, "Stop talking to the other old white guys and start talking to the young black kids and find out what they want. Like, what does a young black kid need?" And this is an older African-American gentleman. What do the young black kids need? What do they want? Why aren't they going out for baseball and football and reffing these sports? And I thought that was such a great question, because, we sit here and try and figure out, okay, how do we get girls to play? The bottom line, he said, is go ask the girls what they need. If they're saying they don't want to get yelled at, stop the yelling. If they say they want freedom with their schedule, give them the freedom with their schedule. If they say they want to make some money, pay them. And if they say they want to have fun, make it fun and give them those things, get them to come. And then let's see if we can keep them after they, say what they want. And there was another really funny one, by the way, and I laughed so hard when she said it, because it's hard for the guys to understand. When Pati Rolf goes to a course in Tunisia, there's 25 of us, by the way. When I went in 1999, I went to a course in Tunisia. 24 of them were men, and I was the only female. And to describe to you what that was like, it was wild. Now, fortunately, I grew up with a lot of men. I ended up at a job with my father. He had me work for him, a lot of men. I played sports with a lot of, I played hockey, all boys, baseball, all boys. So I was used to being around lots of boys. My neighborhood where I grew up, lots of boys. However, when she said to all this place is filled with a lot of women, but a lot of men. And she said, she's African-American female. She goes, pretend you're going to a course with 24 black women and you're the only white man there. She goes, and then you're there for 10 days, hanging out with them, eating, going out to the bars with them, like maybe going out to a grill or a pub. How do you feel? And every one of them said, awkward. I feel really awkward. I go, of course you feel awkward. You're with a bunch of women. And so, I said, there's got to be an understanding is that put yourself, I always say, my mother always said this, Patty, put yourself in someone else's shoes, pretend you're them, and then try to figure out what it feels like. And I'm like, that is such a great lesson. When she said that to this big group of people, I literally burst into laughter. I was up on the panel with her and I just started laughing. I said, oh my God, that is a great picture to think about, like how awkward it would be for so many of us to be standing in someone else's shoes and go, what would that be like? Right? Yeah. So.
But I'm thinking maybe children who are playing as players, being there as players, they're the children. It's kind of a hobby for them, maybe an after school kind of session, activities to do that. And they have no idea or no passion to go and continue. Maybe once they finish it, if they go to college or they go to the university, once they finish playing, I think they put volleyball as a whole and not just the playing, everything that is included volleyball, they put it on the side. So
yes.
The interest of, if I would ask them, do you want to continue play? Do you want to continue playing, or do you want to be an officiate, or do you want to be a coach? I think it's, for them, it's all the same. Meaning, if they have the passion and they will continue whatever they can. And from those, probably those are the really small numbers that are arriving. But all the others, which are putting it on the side, they will leave it over because it was a hobby for them, and that's it.
Right. I always like to tell my story of, like, people say, well, how did you start officiating? I was 18 when I started, right? So I was playing on a club, a really good club team. And back in those days, we didn't have professional referees for the pool play, for the pool rounds, only for the finals, the quarterfinals and finals or semifinals. So the children, there was two choices for the teams, the coach ref or the children ref. Well, the coaches were not dumb. And the coaches did not want to ref. And I had 5 coaches that were all young men in their 30s. They're about 30 years old, these 5 young guys that were coaches for these 2 teams. And the coaches said to us, hey, who wants to ref? And I was with a very competitive team, 24 women, girls were playing. And I made the team, but I was about in the middle. I wasn't the best player, but I wasn't the worst, but I was in the middle. But I was always worried that I would be cut. So when they said, who wants to ref? I thought, if I ref, and I'm the only one that refs, maybe they won't cut me because they're going to want me to stay on the team to ref, because no one else raised their hand. So I kind of raised my hand. I said, I'll ref. I'd never refed. I go, I'll ref. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew when my coach asked me, who wants to ref? I raised my hand and said, yes. Say yes to officiating. I said yes. And I said yes for 2 reasons. 1, I thought, okay, no one else will do it. I'll do it. Number 2, maybe if I do it, they'll keep me on the team because they need me on the team. So I'll be like the ref of the team, right? Every team has a ref. So I was hoping it would keep me on the team. I started reffing, Roy, and I loved it. I'd never reffed before. I tried it and I was like, oh my God, I get to sit. Well, this is how I thought about it. I get to sit in the middle of the court or stand in the middle of the court and watch the best players and the best coaches. And I learned so much. That's why I ref. I ref because I learned a lot. I didn't like reffing. I was good at it. So I thought, okay, I'm pretty good at it. And then I was learning so much as a player. And it's interesting. People said, well, why did you stay reffing? I said, because I liked it so much. And because I was learning so much as a person. And so I stuck with it. So this is the question too, with these children that are playing. If you don't let them ref, right? If we don't let the children ref and we don't pay them to ref and we don't show them how much we appreciate them, because all the coaches, by the way, and all the parents, when I would get done reffing, they'd go, thank you. And they'd all shake my hand and tell me how grateful they were. There's nothing like people saying thank you that makes you go, this is a great job. I like this job. People are appreciating me reffing. And I was only 18 years old. And even then I was smart enough to know I'm appreciated. I like doing it. I'm learning a lot. And then when I got a little bit older and went to college, I kept reffing to make money to pay for college. And then I went, my God, I can make money on the side. Why wouldn't I keep doing this? Because it's a way I can make a little bit of extra money on the side, supplement my college, pay for school, because I had to pay for my own college. And it was just an awakening to me to know that I can make all this side money and pay for stuff. So I think when you talk about the children, I just don't think the children know this is my 2 cents. Children here are working. They're either working at Starbucks or they're working at Burger King or they're working at McDonald's or they're doing a paper route. They're doing jobs. If they knew they could make 3 times the money reffing and still be in volleyball, they'd do it. But I don't think they know. In the United States, you can make around $35 an hour as a young person, 18 years old, reffing. 35 bucks an hour, Roy. Many people don't make $35 an hour. So you work in a regular job here in the United States, you're maybe making $10, $15 if you're 18, 17 years old. Now I'm going to double your pay. I think kids would go, I want to do that. But see, they don't know because nobody's invited them. I got invited. So then all of a sudden I went, whoa, this is pretty good. We have to invite the children when they're done playing or even before, like me, to see, hey, come, we can do these things for you, try it and make them feel good about it. And I'm hoping that with that kind of a recruitment program, we can hold on to some of those children. You know, we don't need even 10% of them. If we get like 2% of those children to stay and ref, it'll be good. Right now, we're not getting we're not getting that. We're not getting 1% of that, 350,000 girls. And we're definitely not getting 1% of the boys. They're not staying.
Is there any publicity from the refereeing of during tournaments or anything? Do you put publicity so they will know that there is something there for them to?
No, and that's a problem. This is we were going to start a campaign in we got it off the ground in 2019. I joined in 2018, so and we were starting
videos and everything that you started.
Yes, and then it kind of got shut down with the pandemic because we had so many budget cuts. We had no sports, no money coming in, but now we're getting off the ground again. So yes, we are starting this year. We're going to get the videos back up going again. We're going to put signage, very nice signage up in our national championship events to say, hey, we need both to parents and to children. We want you to ref. And we're getting bag tags made, little bag tags that have like, we want you to ref. And here's who you contact to do that in your region. We have 40 regions. So we send them to the region and the region gets them started as children. And to kind of say, hey, this is what you can have. You can get cool stuff. You can work with your friends and be with your friends. You can make this kind of money and give them ideas to say it's not hard. And we say the word, make the entry easy. Like, don't make it hard for children to start. Make it easy. Get them on the court, get them a check, have them hang out with their friends and show them that it's a fun place to be right away. Don't make it hard for them. Don't make it cost a lot of money. And that is another thing. We have to keep the cost of being a referee as low as we can to get the children started. Otherwise, they're going to say, nah, I don't think so. And so these are the elements. Yes, we need to have it at the game. We need to put it at our tournaments. We need to start a recruiting campaign to get these kids to think about this as a kind of I call it a side, we call it in the United States a side job or a part-time job, just to make a little bit of cash, just like you and I do. You know what I mean? Yeah. And
do you think in other sports, do they have the same issues? Have you heard something from other friends from other things, maybe learning from other sports, how they deal with problems of recruiting officiates?
Yes, I mean, that was, this big conference, this NASO summit we had at the end of July. I tell you what, that's the first one I've been at. I joined their board about 2 years ago, but that was during the pandemic and we hadn't gotten together. But the group got together and we had a lot of meetings regarding what some of these other sports are doing. And they are all talking about starting when the children are young and getting them engaged early, because if you get to people too late, they're already doing other things. They've already decided this is what I want to do with my spare time. Get to children early and get them engaged in officiating right away and get them having fun. I mean, the element of officiating, the National Federation of High Schools is our biggest organization in the United States. High school sports is huge. This is the one that did the survey that told us that volleyball was the biggest team sport in the country, and it beat out every other high school sport in the United States. And remember, high school sports is bigger than college, bigger than USA, bigger than AAU, bigger than anything. I never realized how big it was. I mean, the numbers are staggering in terms of kids playing sports. And when they did a survey of all the high school officials, and it was thousands and thousands of them, I actually did the survey as well. they found out that the number one reason people officiate is to have fun. They want to do it. They want it to be a positive thing. Money is also important, but having fun is the most important. And the challenge we have in the United States, and I would say too, even internationally, how do you keep your international referees engaged, continuing? They need to go to an event and it needs to be positive. They don't want to be yelled at by their supervisor or their referee coach. They don't want people calling them names. They want to have a good experience. They want to come out of there feeling like, hey, they got better. Our high school referees are the same way. Our USA referees are the same way. They want to have positive treatment. They want to have fun with their colleagues. And, like we went to Canada. This Canada thing was amazing. The Canadian Federation treated us all so well, both the referee coaches. I was there as a referee coach with Guy Bradbury, the president of NARSECA Refereeing Commission. He and I were there as referee coaches, and then we had 9 referees, and then we had all our line judges, all of our scorers, and they made it a really big family event. When we actually had our review of our referees, everybody was in the room together, the line judges, the scorers, and the referees. And we had like this big meeting where we all like debriefed together. We all had like this meeting together. It was amazing. And then they did really nice things. I mean, I still remember one night the Canadian Federation took us all out to dinner. And it was amazing. They were so kind. They were thanking everybody. Just this feeling of camaraderie and fellowship is really important for referees. And I think if we're going to hold on to all these referees, from the best referees that we have at the FIVB level all the way down to the children, that we have to change the culture. We have to make it so that it's someone wrote up here in one of the points, hello family, Martha wrote, right? Absolutely. It's got to be a big family. It has to be a big family. So when we go to these events or when we referee at tournaments, we feel like it's where you want to spend your time. Because I don't know about you, Roy, my time is really important to me. I mean, we only have so much time, and then we're my mother and we don't know who anybody is, and I'm already 60. I mean, my mother's 87. So like my time clock is getting smaller. I don't have much time left. And even though it feels like I have a lot of time, it's important how I spend my time. Do I want to spend it with my family? Do I want to spend it with my job? Do I want to spend it with friends, or do I want to spend it refereeing with my friends who are my family? And I think this is interesting. I want to spend my time with my granddaughter and my children. And the only other thing I want to do is I want to spend it with my refereeing family. Okay. So that's why I go out and do what I do, because I love my ref family. We got to create this environment for children and for other referees so that they want to be, there are 2 things they want to do. They want to be with their own families, and then their spare time, they're out refereeing. And right now, people are not taking their spare time to referee. They're doing other things.
Let me ask you, if some child or somebody shows interest that he wants to officiate, how do you hook him in? How do you keep him there? Because, the interest can be, okay, I saw your sign, I saw your video, what is it all about? And after 1 or 2 things, I prefer to continue playing, or it's only a hobby for me. I'm not gonna invest my time in everything. So how do you hook him in?
Well, there's 2 things. And I think, in the United States, we use the hook. That's exactly the term. How do we hook them to get them to start? The key is getting them to start, right? How do you recruit them to get them to go to one event? So there's 2 things. One, hook them, getting them to start. And then once you have the fish on the line, as we say, how do you keep them on the line and not have the string break, right? The key is, the pressure. And I would argue that offer that when you're recruiting, you have to really aggressively recruit. We have to go to tournaments. We have to be at events. We have to have people in the gym. Roy's got to go, Patty has to go, Julie has to go, and we have to go to events and say, hey, we want you to ref. And they're going to go, I'm doing other things. You go, no, try it. We just want you to try it. You always say, getting my granddaughter to eat something is not so easy, but it's easier when I say, just try it. Take 1 bite, Eliza. Take a bite, chew it, and see if you like it. Then she'll do that. She actually does. She'll take a bite, and then she'll go numb. Or she'll take a bite, and then she'll go blah, and she'll spit it out. It's hilarious. But at least she tries it, right? So how do you get them to try reffing? Because, for example, the first time I reffed, I loved it. Right away, I knew, oh my God, I love reffing. So how do you get the children to try it, the hook? And then how do you keep them on the line? And again, I wouldn't say it's much different than fishing. You apply too much pressure to that line, you press it like, you're too tough. that fish is going to say, see ya, and break the line. Now, I think the challenge is we have to make it a place where it is so friendly and so much driven by family that the children are treated well, they're given good schedules, they're paid well, so that they say, it was a great weekend. And also they like making money. I'm sorry, but children like making money. They like getting that first check. Here, they could work in Wisconsin. If we have a juniors tournament and we have an 18-year-old come and work a morning wave, which is 6 matches, they make 30, let's just say the minimum, $30 an hour. They make 180 bucks in a half a day. That's a lot of money for an 18-year-old. So send them the check for $180. The kid's going to look at that check, go, that's a big check. And they're going to go, I want to go again next month for half a day and make these bits of money where they can go spend that money on other things they like to do. I just think we're going to try it. We haven't done it yet. We're going to try it. I don't have answers for you right now, Roy, because I'm talking what we call a big talk, but I have no facts, right? I have no
brainstorming.
Yes. So we have to do the research. We're actually having a gentleman who's a friend of volleyball for us. He's building us a database of all of our current members that are professionals, that are adults. We're getting a database that we can now access to take surveys. We're going to start doing now yearly surveys and finding out, how did the year go for Roy? What did you like? What do you think needs to go better? And if you retire, we have a survey that says, hey, why are you retiring? You might just say, it's time. I'm 70 years old and I'm tired and I'm done. Well, that's good. I mean, if we keep you till 70, that's really awesome. If you retire at 50, that's a concern. Like FIVB referee that we put so much effort into, and I would say money and time, training to be the best, and then they retire at 47, that's not good. Especially if they're excellent. I mean, why did you retire? We've got to find out why. And if they say, hey, the schedule is too much, I was away from my family too much, or my husband too much, or my wife too much. My wife was starting to say, listen, any more refereeing and finito, I'm moving out, finding a husband who's going to be around, which happens. The divorce rate in the United States of United States American football referees is 75%, Roy. They did a study of American football referees and the divorce rate, 75%. That's awful. Like, why would you ref football knowing your odds are bad to keep your marriage? Not good. So a lot of these guys that actually ended up having challenges with their marriages, they said if they had one thing to do over, they wouldn't have given up their family. But the issue is, like, how do you make reffing a space where people can do it and have a schedule that's respectful, and I use the word respectful, of their families, right? You know, to be the best in the world, do you have to sacrifice for 5 to 10 years your family? I think that's the question we have to ask ourselves from the whole group, everyone, you know, especially from FIVB to NORCECA to us in the US. I mean, we have referees that we put a lot of time and work into, and they, you know, we have an event. I did a reach out to everybody. Hey, I have an event. And they all said, no, I can't go. No one could go to this major event because everybody has commitments they've already made and they can't make it. Now, what am I going to do? Say, make someone go? No, I'm not going to make someone go. I asked, they can't do it. So we have to find an alternative to that event. But the issue is, it's an element of, like, survey the people that have retired and ask them, because when you finally retire, you can be more honest, right? You know, it's like my boss says, Patty, how do you feel? I'm not going to tell him all the things, you know, because he's going to go, Only when you retire in the United States, we have what's called exit interviews, where we interview people when they leave, and they tell the truth when they leave because they're leaving. They can say anything. So I think an exit interview of referees is very important, because I can say, Roy, let's say Roy retires at 50. We can say, hey, Roy, tell us why you're departing. You know, and you can say, hey, what went well when you were an international referee, and what do you think we could have done better? And tell us why you're retiring, so we understand why. So then if we get a lot of these notes, one from you, one from Julie, one from, you know, Bill and Bob, and they're all writing the same thing, maybe the schedule's too tough, or maybe, you know, I didn't like the harassment from the coaches. These are things then we can work on and make solutions for in the future, so that it's a better place for you, especially if many of you are saying the same thing. Like in the US, many referees are saying the parents are horrible. You have to get the parents to stop being horrible. And that's one of our major goals, is to get the behavior under control. And that's going to be one of our biggest jobs this year. Is our number one responsibility is to get the behavior down, because children will not ref if that behavior continues with parents of these children. It's funny. The parents have children that are playing. Yet those same children, when they ref, the parents are screaming at them. And I would say to the parents, pretend that's your daughter up there. Like, what are you doing? It's making no sense. So, it's just an education issue for us.
Do you have any cooperation with the coaches and
yes, we're getting more. Yes, we're getting more. Well, definitely coaches. I've always said I used to coach juniors. I used to be a college coach. 25 years I was a coach, and I coached the club level for about 15 years. But my last 2 years, it was about in 15 and 16, I think, or 16 and 17, I coached 2 big clubs here in Wisconsin. And I remember my parents, by the way, were not the best parents when we first started. But I remember I told the director of the club, the man in charge, I said, listen, I am not coaching this team if those parents are going to be allowed to scream. There's no screaming for my parents. I'm going to tell them that. And if they scream, they're gone. They can't come and watch. So he looked at me and he goes, okay, Patty. And we literally told the parents of the team I coached and said, there's no yelling at the refs. Only I can yell at the refs. You are here to cheer on your players and the players of the other team, your parents, for gosh sakes. Cheer on the game and the children. And my parents stopped. I think the coaches of the teams, especially at the youth level, are the most important thing to stop this. They're our only hope, because as referees, we can issue cards, but that doesn't change the culture, right? And so referee coaches have to work with their referees to issue the tools they have, but then the clubs, these youth clubs, have to get their parents to stop. And even in Canada, it was interesting because of the rules of FIVB, right? The assistant coaches can't yell, right? They can't be up talking. So we had a game where the bench, the 4 coaches on the bench were standing up. They're all yelling, and then the second referee turned around and went, "Hey, boop, boop, sit," and like, no more. And the head coach looked at them, his assistant coaches, and he said, "Stop," and they all quiet. It was perfect. It's the way it should be. Head coach told his staff, "Be quiet. I'm going to yell at the refs." And he went and spoke to the ref, and the captain went and spoke to the ref, as it should be. And we have to enforce this same concept that in the youth level, only the coach can yell at the refs if they choose.
Yeah, but those are young referees that we put them for the first time or the second time. And I mean, they're alone up there, or with the second referee, and they're all alone, and they're receiving it. They are frightened. It's their first time or second time or the fewest time that they started to whistle. And then they have some kind of a situation, or that the coach is yelling or the players are yelling. Do you have any cooperation with the coaches to try to give them, you said at the end of the match, to cheer the referee for a good job that he did, or even if they think that it wasn't such a good job, still to cheer him up?
To thank them, right?
Exactly, to give them some good feeling so that they can continue forward and not feel after 1 or 2 matches that they received bad critics or something, bad, I don't know, comments from the coaches, and say, well, I suck at it, or I'm not good at it, or I'm not having fun at it, and I'm going to finish with it. I'm going to stop.
Right, and especially where you're issue of girls. There is a study out there that says girls versus boys, right? How they learn and how boys deal with failure. First of all, and it's a study. There's a lot of studies out on boys and girls. There's a problem with girls because of how girls are raised by their parents, that there's an element of perfectionism, right? Girls have to be polite. They can't be punching their brother. They can't get in fights. They have to behave. We don't like them doing things that are like scary, that we don't know what's going to happen. You know this. I see it all the time. Even with my granddaughter, her mother will go, and I'll go, let her go. Let her do these things. But there's always a worry about girls. But boys, my God, boys are out there in fights. They're climbing trees. They're like, they do things that you wouldn't let a little girl do. So there's this element of being proper, being a perfectionist, doing a good job, how you look, how you behave. You have to be good. And the boys are like, wild. And it's awesome. I was raised like a boy. I was raised, my father my mother and father had 6 children. My father was a major gun dealer. He had a gun shop and he was an outdoorsman. And my mother was a free spirit. She wanted her daughters to do all the things that boys could do. She was kind of like a woman's rights in America, right? She was the first, she'd be, oh my God, my mother was in jail once. She was trying to, she got put in jail, yes, with 6 young children. I got a call from my little brother. He was back at school, I was in college, and this is a funny story about my mother, and probably the reason I am what I am. My brother, who was about 14 at the time, goes, Patty, I was at college, I remember, young. He goes, Patty, mom's in jail. I was like, what happened? She got arrested. She was doing sit-ins. You know how you do sit-ins where you protest? She was protesting Cargill. I don't know if you know the Cargill company. Cargill's a huge company worldwide. They were making landmines, and the landmines were used in many other countries. And of course, children are the biggest victims of landmines, not adults, not soldiers, but children. And children all over the world, many countries are injured because of them. So my mother and a bunch of women from the church who had children did a sit-in in front of the gate at Cargill. And I think there were 6 of them, they got arrested and put in jail. The problem is, which the church knew, that these mothers had many children. My mother had 6. Another mother had 14 children. And so my mother was always about these rights of women, of children. And of course, the husbands, the men, were calling the courthouse and the judge saying, I need my wife home. I can't take care of all these children. So they let them out of jail after 24 hours. It was hilarious. They didn't charge any of them, of course, because they have children to take care of, and their husbands who ran the city. My father was a very important man in the city. Of course, all the wives got let go because they had to care for all these kids, and the husbands they didn't want to do it anymore. But the point being, I was raised in a family that said, don't worry, you don't have to be perfect. But girls often, when they're reffing and people are yelling, you're doing a bad job, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, girls are like, okay, I'm done then. If I can't be good, I can't be perfect, I'm out. We suffer that a lot with women. I have many women. I was just doing an event, this Canada event. One of my line judges made one mistake. And I don't even call it a mistake. It was close. She called one call and the ref overruled her and called a different call. Then she got yelled at just a little bit. You know, the players are like, but they were pretty good. She was young. She's in her 20s. We went into the locker room and she's already crying. She's crying. I'm like, what are you doing? She was, I'm so bad. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? You made one mistake. Stop crying. I go, my God, the referee up there, he already made 3 mistakes. Let me tell you what his mistakes were. He did this, and those are all mistakes. He's not crying. And she goes, and I go, no, this is the difference. You need to stop crying. You did a great job. You had one mistake, and thank goodness the referee overruled you. So then you did make a mistake. He fixed it. So you're good. Line judging, like refereeing, we're going to make a few mistakes. But if we cry after every mistake, oh my goodness, you and I know we would be finished. We couldn't referee. And women are brought up to be so hard on themselves that this is another thing that we have to teach women as they're becoming referees is, listen, you're going to not be perfect. It's okay. And I think refereeing, to me, is the best job in the world to teach you how to handle pressure. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn how to move forward from them. It's the only place where you're in a situation where the whole world or a whole high school or people are watching you and they're going to see your mistakes live. Like when I'm at work, I make mistakes, but nobody sees them, right? Only my boss might see it. So when you're working in your regular job, maybe a few people will see your mistake, but then we'll all work together and fix the mistake. Nobody sees it, but you're reffing, the whole world sees the mistake. And then it's challenge review. And then even the bigger world sees the mistake on television. We have to teach women and men, but particularly women, that it's okay. It's part of life. We're not robots, we're human beings. And this idea that we're supposed to be a robot as a female and do everything perfectly and look perfect and act perfect and have all these perfect games. These are impossible things for children. So this element of girls, I just, Roy, it frustrates me, to be perfectly honest with you, because there are so many good children out there that would really enjoy the game. They would enjoy being with their friends. They didn't when I remember when I ref back in the day, there was an appreciation for referees. There was an understanding we were going to make mistakes, these children. There, we had people just, I had people saying, thank God you're reffing and I don't have to ref, because they wanted a break between playing. And we have to give back. And I would argue that there is some warrant, there is some argument to get back to those old days with the children. Now, understand, when we're reffing an FIVB game, we're going to get yelled at. It's high intensity. It is what it is. But with the children and that club level, high school level, even the college, we have to get back to the old days when it really was more of a family event. It was a family environment. And then to hook the children and keep them, it has to be fun. I mean, that's the bottom line. Like, for example, work. I mean, some of us work because we have to work, and maybe it's not so much fun, but we have to have the money. But most of us are trying to find jobs that we can enjoy our work, right? If we're in a job, we're getting yelled at by our boss, we're getting yelled at by our colleagues, people are treating you bad, saying, go home, you suck, which is what they tell us on the ref stand. How long would you work at your job that you have right now? I mean, I wouldn't be at my job. I get treated really well here. I have an incredible boss. He's very kind. I have great coworkers. Everybody's like a big family. I show up every day, happy to come to work. But if that's not happening for a referee on the referee stand, then why would they come to work? You're not going to come to work if you're in a place that isn't a fun place to be. So hook them by making it fun. Keep them by creating a place where they feel like they're with people that love and care for them, and it's like a family, but we all have to start somewhere. You and I can't be sitting here because, I look, first of all, 20 people, we got 20 people here. That's amazing. 19 people here. That's awesome. But the reality is the 19 of us, besides being here and listening, now we have to go out and actually start recruiting. I do recruiting all the time. Like even at the Canada event, we had, there were 3 women there. Not many women were there, but we had 3 women, 2 line judges. And no, excuse me, we had more than that. 2 line judges, and we had 1, 2, 3 scorers. I tried to tell those women, especially the 2 line judges, who I know are referees as well. I said, you guys got to keep going, and don't be so hard on yourselves. And, look at the guys. They're not upset about making mistakes. They know mistakes are a part of life. They keep moving forward. And we chatted quite a bit about their careers in officiating in Canada to try and get them to continue to officiate, because they're line judging at this high level event. It's Pan American Games for the men. It's high level. And I said, if you guys can do this, and they both did it well, you guys can ref it. I mean, it's just a matter, and they're both pretty young, particularly one of them was really young. And I said, you got to stick with it because you have a great personality. She had just a great positive personality, very, very nice, polite, respectful. The guys appreciated her. None of the guys ever were yelling at her. The guys were great, all the teams. And we got to keep those women in the game so that they're reffing that higher level game. And we have to go out and get them, right? Yeah. You and I have to go out and say, hey, come ref.
Let me ask you a couple of final questions. Mm-hmm. This question, it's not, it could be a chauvinist question, but I'm sorry if it sounds like that.
I'll tell you.
Women have, from my point of view, women have the problems, the thoughts of a career and a family. Yes. And to add to that, volleyball.
Yes.
Men have also career and family to think about, but when the men think about it, family, okay, so we'll have a wife taking care of it, or we'll find somebody who will take care of the children while we are officiating,
working,
coaching, or doing, or working, or whatever. Women from the beginning, I guess, from young age, they are thinking of a family, right? Raising a family, having children, having a career, and to add to all of that, volleyball as well. So how still can we hook those women, those officials, and interest them as well to explain them or to give them some maybe some answers to all these great thoughts that they have?
You asked a question that I'm still trying to figure out how to approach. I would use the word attack, but I'm trying to be a little bit kinder, how to approach. So this is what I did. Now, this is funny because this will not work for most people. When my husband asked me to marry him, because I didn't ask him, there's no way I was going to ask my husband. I needed to know that he wanted to marry me. So he asked me, Patty, let's get married. This is what I said to him. And you guys, I'm horrified by saying what I'm going to say, but this is what I said. I said, I'm only going to get married if you agree to follow my career. I'm not following your career. You know, we have a very big country. So the problem is that if my husband decides to take a job someplace else, then my coaching job is over. So I said that, you know, if I get a job in coaching, you're going to come with me and give up your job. Otherwise, we're not getting married. That's what I told him. So that's what I did. So he goes, okay. And I said, if we have children, you're staying home. I'm not. And also said, we're not both working with children. I refused because I grew up with a mother that stayed home and he grew up with a mother that stayed home. And we both agreed that's what we wanted. So we talked about this and I said, you're going to stay home and take care of the children because he is better at it. Roy, my husband's a way better parent than I am. He has got so much patience. So he goes, okay, I'll stay home with the children. So in the beginning, we agreed. But can you imagine how many men would do this? Not many. So I got lucky on my first try. I found the right man. But this issue that you're talking about with most women, right? What do they do, especially from other countries that have more stricter gender norms, right? Where that women take care of the children. There isn't a husband that stays home. Even in the day, back in the 80s, when my husband stayed home with the children, other friends of ours who were men said to him, what do you do? And he goes, I take care of the children. And they go, no, what do you do for a living? He go, I take care of the children. And they go, you cannot just take care of children. They were horrified that my husband, I mean, there was such judgment of him in some good ways. Many of the men said, well, I wish I could just stay home and care for the children, right?
Being a housewife, a house father.
Yes, exactly. Many of the guys were like, I think I just want to stay home and be a housewife or a house husband, right? As we say in America, in the United States. But the element that you're talking about worldwide, the issue worldwide problem, and even in the United States, how do women who really are responsible for their mothers, potentially their parents, caring for their senior parents or their children or the grandchildren? You know, when I have some of these women that I know that referee FIVB and have children, they often say, my mother's watching the children. Almost all the time. I have a coordinator for me in USA Volleyball. She recently was moving and had a whole bunch of stuff going on. I said, who's got the children? And she goes, my mother does. Or her husband's mother. It's always the mother that has the children. So the challenge we have with these women is that we've got to figure out how we can get, and I mean this in a serious way, but this is new to my thinking, right? Your point is, how do we get to their husbands to say, listen, just like we do the pro women, the women that are playing pro sports, these top women that are playing on these top Olympic teams, they're playing and their husbands are supporting them, right? And you see the husbands at the games with the baby and the mother's there and her mother's there with the baby helping. How can we get these referees, females, husbands, or families to help raise those children when they're working? You know, I think there's got to be some type of education program for the husband that says, let's say, you know, Roy, just to kind of be weird here, let's say you're my husband. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be reffing at the level I was reffing, or even referee coach now. I have to be gone a lot. I mean, it's a big commitment. So I'm referee coaching. And now who has the grant, or my mother, who's going to watch my mother? So I say to you, Roy, I somehow say, Roy, Pat, this is an important job. We need Patty. We need women coaches because women need to be coaching. The other women that are referees need to see women coaches. We have to, because we approach, by the way, coaching differently than men do. I'm seeing that now. When I listen to the guys coach and I coach, I go, we're different in some ways. And then how do we get Roy to know what Patty's doing is, you're my husband. How do we get you to know what I'm doing is important? And these cool things that I can do. And now will you watch the children for the next 10 days, which by the way, won't be easy. And let Patty go to a tournament for 10 days or 12 days or world championships, almost 23 days. Yep. And will you watch the children, or can we get you to get your parents or her parents to watch the children, to come in and watch? This is the education of the family that we've got to have. And we don't have a program like that at all. We have nothing for spouses. And I really think that we have to have a spouse program that says, hey, this is a big commitment. We're grateful to you, not just saying grateful to Patty or to Karen or to Karina, but we're grateful to the husbands that are watching the children, and that we reach out to them and say, hey, we want to send a thank you note to them and say, you know, she's reaching this level of excellence in a sense because of the work that you're doing. I mean, my husband's behind the scenes. My husband's been working his butt off for decades now to support my career. And, you know, the fact that nobody has thanked him, you know, is that important? I think it is important that we do that. And then how do we get the parents? Because I do think parents, like our parents, play a big role when we're young of watching the children. Many of the women that I know are reffing, their own family members are watching their children. And I think that's how it works even better. And by the way, one great story, Mr. Hassan, as we all remember, rest in peace, my supervisor, that was a big help to my career, a huge help. Mr. Hassan helped my career. He told me a story once. There was a female referee, and I'm not sure. I wish I could remember who it was. It's probably good that I don't remember who it is because I shouldn't say any names. But she, I think, was from Egypt or from one of the countries. I feel like it's from Egypt. And he said he invited her to go to an event, and she said she could not go. She had to take care of the children. And he told me that he said, Patty, I was able to find a solution. He goes, I called the husband, Mr. Hassan. I go, what? This is, he told me this in like almost a decade and a half ago, 15 years ago. He goes, I called the husband. I said, you're kidding. He goes, no, I called the husband and said, please, your wife is one of the finest referees in Egypt. I want her to referee a very important event. And you are her husband. And he said, I'm Professor Hassan. He said he told his titles, she will make you proud. You need to do this to support women and blah, blah, blah. And she said he gave the husband a lecture and said, you need to let her go. And finally the husband goes, okay, I'll let her go. And I was like, that is brilliant. What a great idea to have. When she says, my husband won't let me go, Mr. Hassan called the husband. And then she was reffing more and more. And I was like, who would know that that would be the thing to do? And I thought it was just really, as we say, outside the box thinking. He did what he had to do to get her to ref. And I think these are the challenges. In the United States now, to get women in coaching, for example, at universities, they actually pay, I know there's a coach in Florida. The university pays for her husband and her children to come with her on events and trips. We actually cover at USA events. We have a young woman who's really talented and a hopeful international. She is a head official for us. So she goes to major events and she's in charge of the referees and the rulings. So she goes as a head official, kind of as a referee supervisor. She has a new baby, a brand new baby. We pay for her baby to go, and we cover her room for the baby to come, and we allowed her to have her own room so that she can be with the baby. She's a nursing mother. She has to nurse, and then she has a babysitter who comes with so that she can help. And this is what we're doing to support women who have babies. We all have to come up with a better plan for women that have children and have a program for them so that if they have young children, maybe the baby comes with a new baby.
I remember in beach volleyball,
why not?
One supervisor, she was from Brazil, I think, and she just gave birth about 2 or 3 months before the tournament, and she came with a baby care on the expense of the FIVB, and she was with the baby, and she was supervising the whole tournament as well.
I think this is perfect. To me, this is what women need to see. Women need to see women like her with their families doing it. And if they need help, provide help, right? It's a little bit more expensive, but in the long run, we're showing that we support women. Remember like the Olympics when they weren't going to let the baby of that athlete into the village? This cannot happen. Women are having babies. They're nursing their babies. Their babies have to come with. And I think these are the things that we have to be more open and more understanding that, if men had babies, think about it. Really, put yourself in the woman's shoes. Like, I'm going to pretend I'm a woman and having a baby. What would I expect? How would I expect to be treated? So then reflect that back and treat women the same way. Because, in the end, at times, I think you men are lucky you're not having the babies. It's not easy having a baby. So, if the guys would start realizing, hey, let's support, because in the end, people say, blah, blah, blah about when I go, listen, women, and this is, I'm meaning to be funny here. This is a funny statement. Don't take me seriously. But I'm saying women gave birth to you, Roy. Like, your mother gave birth to you. She raised you. Like, you can't tell me women aren't pretty good at what they do. So, women are the ones that are raising the children, giving them birth to them, bringing them up. Let's offer them the kind of support for the work that they're doing. My mother is the one, my father is an amazing man. Incredible, the things he did. But I spent almost 90% of my time with my mother and with my sisters and brothers. My mother raised me to where I am. And I'm sure your mother most likely raised you as well. So, and the things we learned from our mothers and our fathers, but very importantly, we spend more time with our mothers. And the reality is all these women that we wanted to come into officiating, They're so important for us, and they're going to bring so much to the game for us. And particularly in the United States, we have a shortage. We need them to ref. And the question is, how do we, and I think your point is well taken, how do we pull them away from all these other responsibilities and get them to ref? I think we just have to provide a great place where they can go, okay, this was fun. I had a blast. I made some money for my family. My children are being taken care of by my husband, my parents, someone, a babysitter, as we say in the United States, someone to care for the babies. And it was worth my time. And I also would say we cannot ask too much. You know, women can't be gone for 4 months. I was lucky when I had this international run, and it was great, by the way. Without the schedule, like starting in 2014, we had a heck of a schedule for FIVB. Very, very extensive schedule. I never would have become as strong as I was without that schedule. But there were some serious costs to many of us. For me, I loved it. I loved every minute of being gone for 6 months. To me, it was amazing. But most people, this is impossible. And most people, unlike my husband was perfectly good with me being gone for 6 months, which is weird. My husband's a weird guy, but most husbands would be going like, I miss you. Like, where are you? I think we've got to find solutions for these really intense schedules that we give people, especially in NORCECA and FIVB.
My last question is,
yes, sir.
Do you think that there's enough the volleyball referee, women volleyball referee now who are acting as in the top levels and everything, are there enough role modeling for young, inspiring volleyball referees, for young women referees?
Yes, I think we're all working really hard at that, right? NORCECA has added 2 referee coaches to the indoor. FIVB, there's 2 female referee coaches with that crew. I think, it's an evolution in a sense. I'm not a very patient person. This is my problem. Often my friends say, Patty, calm down, step by step. They go step by step, and Roy, I want to go step, and then I want to jump. Yeah. Right. And they go, Patty, calm down. And I'm trying to be calm. Right. But you got to realize I'm 60 now. Am I going to be doing this when I'm 70? I don't know. It's kind of weird when you think about it that way. But so I want to see progress today. But I do understand that I've got to be calm, and I've got to go step by step. And I see that we are taking steps. NORCECA's taken a step. They've added some female coaches, and FIVB's taken steps. They're adding female coaches. They're advancing women. You can see the advancement women are making in other countries. Our numbers are so low, though. So when you look at all the female international referees, there just aren't many. In Asia, the numbers, in Africa, the numbers, in NORCECA, the numbers, our women we don't have a lot of them. So we've got to figure out how we get more of them into the group, the pool, and then from there, give them mentors, female mentors, because I'm going to leave you kind of with one story, which I think is important. People say, oh, I had male coaches almost my whole life. I have no issue with male coaches. But the reality is I love my male coaches, but because there were no women, it just became like normal. But I'm a rare person. I have a lot of friends that are no longer reffing. For whatever reasons, I don't know, because they all say, boy, I've stayed in volleyball. People say, how long have you been doing volleyball? I said, since I was 18. I was playing and coaching. Then I went pro, but I was still coaching and reffing. And then I was coaching and reffing. And then now I was reffing. And now I'm coaching refs and reffing. So I do volleyball 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's the best, but that's not normal. So this element of needing to see like people, like I need to see female supervisors. I need to see female coaches. Female players need to see female referees. They have to, and young ones. I have a lot of people, when I'm going to tournaments, even the young guys look and they see a 70-year-old male referee. They go, that is an old ref. Like, how come there's no young guys reffing? We don't have young men reffing. So this is a problem, because they look up and they go, I don't know if I want to ref with all those old senior citizens, right? They want to ref with their people. So my granddaughter was watching a movie, Roy. We were watching a movie about Mounties, the Canadian Mounted Police, and this really kind of cute dog. To make a long story short, they rescued this little boy, So that she wants to be a doctor, by the way. It's hilarious. She's always playing a doctor or a nurse. She wants to be a medical person. So these two EMTs, or people in the ambulance, came, and they were like going down a mountain in the dark, and they're, you know, going down. And I go, look, here comes the man and the lady doctors. And she goes, Grandma, those are, and she's 3. She goes, Grandma, those are men. And I looked at her and I was like, Eliza, that's a lady doctor. And she goes, no, doctors are men. That's what she said. And I was like, oh my God, no, she cannot think this. And then the next thing you know, the camera changed, and you saw the lady with the big ponytail in the back of her head, like mine. And then I go, see, it's a lady. And she goes, oh, there's a lady doctor like me. I go, yeah, you see, ladies can be doctors too. And she looked at me and she smiled. She goes, I'm going to be a lady doctor. Roy, this was like a moment I said to myself, I've always believed that you have to have representation, because children will look and, you know, maybe they won't go do it because there's no women doing it. But when I heard her speak, I was like, oh my God, it's so true. She said, ladies can't be doctors, because in the movies, she's seeing a lot of old movies and it's all men. But she saw this one lady doctor and she said, I can be a lady doctor too. I do think you got to have women up on the stand. You got to have women coaches. You got to have women administrators, because little girls need to look up and go, oh my God, I see another little girl, a woman reffing, or a young girl reffing, or a young girl line judging, or a young girl coaching. And again, like you, if you were a little boy playing, you need to look up and see a young man reffing, a young man coaching, not an 80-year-old male ref and an 80-year-old coach. You need to see your people so that you can look out there and go, okay, there's people that look like me. And then I want to do it because it's fun and I can make money and it's worth my time. And I think those are the big things that we got to work on. So that children want to stick with the sport. Your issue of once they're done playing, they leave the sport. That is 100% true. Now, how do all of us, and now there's 17 of us, how do all 17 of us kind of be a ripple, send that message out and recruit in our own countries, young people, boys and girls, to play, coach, ref, be an administrator, and stay in the sport, because you and I know it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And we make good friends. You know what I mean?
And now we have 17 friends with us here as well. And
yes, I know. And like someone said, yeah, I mean, it's really about building friendships. I say to people, I don't ref for reffing. I build because I build friendships. I'm going on a trip next year. My daughter called me. She's 28. She goes, Mom, I want to go to Europe. And I said, great. Where should we go? And she goes, I don't know. She goes, Switzerland. I go, oh, that's a cool place. And then I said, what about Scotland? And she goes, oh, I always wanted to go to Scotland. And I said, let's call my friend, right? And so I literally got on the phone and I called my friend. I said, hey, Maddie and my daughter and I want to come to Scotland. He goes, you're going to stay with us. I was like, I love refs. You know, no matter where in the world I go, I'm always going to have someone to go have dinner with. I'm always going to have someone to, you know, stay over with. Any of you guys come to my country, you're always going to have someone to be able to hang out with if you end up in Wisconsin. And, you know, reffing is more about the friendships. And that's what we got to show the children, that playing is fun, but reffing is like its own little family, its own little team. And for some reason, they think it's like something horrible and they're going to get yelled at, instead of realizing, no, it's bigger than that. It's way bigger than that. And they just don't know it yet. And that's what we all have to do, is we got to teach them.
Totally.
Got to show them. Yeah.
So first of all, I would like to thank you, Patty.
Yes.
For this great, inspirational and exciting interview that we had, this brainstorming, this conversation. I'd like to open the tablet now for everybody who has any questions or wants to add anything. Sonia, I see you there waiting with your finger.
Sonia!
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Pati. It's a great.
How are you?
It's a big pleasure to be with all of you. Great. Great. I heard everything about what you said, and I can say also here in my country, it's really difficult and hard to be women referee, but we are growing up, and now we have a lot of women referees, and I'm
Good.
proud, really, because I'm a first in my country who start to be referee. In all sports. I started
Yes.
that time, yes, in all sports. But now we have really a lot of women referee in all sports.
And the more, and I think, Sonia,
Okay.
you're right, the more and more
Nice.
women we get, the more and more women we get, the more and more women will come. Because they see, yes, I see other women can ref, I can too. And also, Roy, talk about friendship, Sonia and I,
Yeah.
and also a whole bunch of
but-
other women. Go ahead, no, go ahead. You go, Sonia.
No. Okay, go, come on. No. I want to say now we have a problem. We need more men referees in volleyball.
We do. We need all men and women, right?
Yeah. Tell us what you want.
Yes. No, and I also I
What
say,
you want to
Roy.
say?
Yeah, no, the talk about friendship, Sonia and I, as well as, I don't know, how many were there? There were like 12 or 13 of us women were reffing together. And we had so much fun. Oh my goodness. I think that was one of the first events I was with a large number of women at an event. Normally it's, I'm always normally the only female in the room. And we had, and we just built great friendships out of that. And I think that is also part of, when we think about trips we go on and who we hang out with, that's the issue of building these friendships that we had.
Yeah, I think I remember in Puerto Rico, the under 20, it was almost
Yes,
50-50 women and women.
it was almost
We were
50-50.
stronger.
Yes, it was the first event I was at that had almost 50-50. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sonia.
And,
Anybody
a
else?
lot of, yeah. Thank you, Pati.
Nice
a
to
lot
see you,
of,
Sonia.
yes, me too.
Yes, yep.
If
Keep
anybody
recruiting.
else would like to ask any question or add something to our meeting here? Well, if anybody stayed up till now or have something to say. Hey, Sandy, I see you there.
Hello there. Hi. It's good to hear Patty actually, because she is so inspirational. This is really a fantastic evening of inspiration from her. And I think listening to her history gives us an insight into what you need to be a top level referee. I always remember what my wife, who was a referee, always said, that she had to be twice as good to be equal. And I think that's unfortunately still the case. So it is an uphill fight, but I appreciate all the efforts that Patty is doing. Okay.
Thanks, Sandy. And I think it's important to, and Sandy, I looked at the roster a little bit before we started, and I didn't see you there, but Sandy's a prime example.
Sorry, I snuck in when you weren't looking, so it's okay.
No, that's all right. No.
I heard all of it.
No, I'm glad you're here, Sandy. But I think a prime example, and this is Sandy. This is not to toot anyone's horn, but it's going to toot your horn, as we say in the United States. Sandy's a prime example of a gentleman who understands what a referee needs emotionally, right? There were many moments in my officiating career where I was calling Tom Blue, crying my eyeballs out about something horrifying that happened to me at an event. Somebody yelled at me, or maybe I got a little bit of rough treatment from a former supervisor. Or I was hard to be gone from the children. I had very young children when I started in 99. My daughter was 3 when I started the international path. And so I was gone from my children a lot. And that, by the way, I may jokingly say my husband watched the children, but to be gone from your children is very, very painful, very difficult, especially when they're saying, Mommy, when are you going to come home? And I got to say, like, next month. It's a little bit crazy. So, but one thing about Sandy is I ended up calling Tom Blue a lot when I was struggling, and Doug Wilson. But then there was a point where there was a transition, right? And then I met Sandy at an event, and I was like, man, Sandy is a nice man. And then there was an element of building a relationship with Sandy as a coach, back then supervisor, now referee coach. But the element of Sandy is we need a lot of Sandys. Because his approach to referees is so I don't know how to describe it, but it's a partnership in a sense. He is my supervisor, but in reality, he also understands the challenges of refereeing, and he's a good role model as a referee, because Sandy refed, but particularly Sandy, and I know Sandy knows this because I've thanked him 5,000 times in my career. I would sometimes call Sandy on an international event and say, Sandy, like I'd forget something. Like I'd be like, dang it, Sandy, I want to just confirm this. And Sandy would respond, yes, Patty, that's that. Or I'd be confused about something. He goes, no, this. He'd help me as a kind of like a true partner and a true gentle coach. And I think that's the kind of thing too that our young people need, and that I needed, was this approach to coaching that is much more holistic, a wellness approach to coaching, because referees are going through tough times right now with their jobs, their families, the traveling right now, you guys, is brutal. And all these things add up to people being stressed out as referees, and then to leave your children, especially as a female person, is not easy. And so Sandy made my life, as well as other people that were my coaches, 1,000 times better. And I never was like, I use the word in fear as a referee. I really felt fairly safe with my work, and that I could ask questions. So Sandy, I think that's also another approach to the new referee coach model that we're starting to use, that is really going to be positive for women, but I think for all people, that it's just creating a more, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, Sandy, you'd probably describe it better, because I'm new, I'm new to this whole thing. But just as a referee, I can tell you that it really changed my life, and it's going to change the lives of other referees as well, as they move through from young people up to the highest level.
It's interesting what you said about the line judge, because I'm just returned from a big beach event, I do that as well.
Yes.
And one of the line judges, she hesitated at one point, and she was really quite down after the match. And it was only one thing that she did, but as you said, she felt it much more strongly and much more emotionally than the guys who also made mistakes, and,
Yes.
and really she was the one that had to be picked up, and so didn't put the arm around her or anything else, but I said, look, the referees are making 3,000 decisions a match. They make 1 or 2 decisions that maybe you disagree with. That's a 99% success rate. You've made one, not even a mistake, you hesitated, and the referee was able to correct that, and that's not a problem. But you're absolutely right. The females seem to feel it much more than the guys when it's a mistake or a potential mistake, and it was the same thing, actually. This is a totally different thing, but the research that you mentioned earlier kind of suggests that if you are a referee and you penalize a female player unfairly, then they take that much more seriously than if you penalize a guy unfairly. The guy. All right. My wife is now saying that we need to be sympathetic and tender. Okay, forget it.
No, but you've got a great point.
This is a three-way conversation. Anyway, so anyway, we have to be very careful as referees to be equally fair or unfair to all the participants, and the same thing applies to referees, line judges, scorers, etc. And to be honest, one of the important things is that most scorers are female. And
Yes.
How many times have we seen the second referee turn around and snarl at a female scorer? And you think, you shouldn't be doing that. You need to support that person. So it's not just the referees that we need to support like this.
No, you're 100% right.
Can I hold this up? This is what my wife told me.
Well, yeah, absolutely that too. And men, and the challenge is men have hormones too, right? I mean, we know men and women both have hormones, but it's definitely the issue of how we're raised. I mean, there is so much research on how they're raised. This is I'm going to do one study, and to kind of back what Sandy's saying. There's a big study. When I was on the school board, I was able to attend a lot of these national school board conferences, and there was a study that came out of why, when a teacher says, who knows the answer to this math question, that all the little boys will raise their hand, but the little girls won't raise their hand. So little boys are being then called upon to answer the question, and girls are not answering the question because they think, well, the girls don't know the answer. That is not the case. The little boys raise their hand and they're going to guess, and they all guess, and they have the wrong answer, but the little boys don't care. They're just into the game of guessing. Little girls do not guess. They have to have the answer, which is why they weren't excelling at math because they were holding back, waiting to know what the answer was before they answered the question. So they changed. They told teachers, no longer can you call, have people raise their hand. You need to say, in a classroom, you need to say, Sonia, what do you think the answer is to this math question? And it's okay if you're wrong. And so Sonia would say, oh, I think it's 95. And then you go, okay, that's pretty close. And then we'd go to Sandy and go, Sandy, what do you think the question is? I think it's 93. And they were able to get more girls to participate and answer the question incorrectly, knowing that that was okay. So they changed the way classrooms worked. No longer say, hey, who knows the answer and raise your hand, because it was predominantly boys that were raising their hand. And now math in the STEM cell, they call it STEM in the United States, but in the areas of math and sciences, girls are now at 50%, same rate as boys in the areas of math because of this new way of teaching girls. Because girls, again, they will not answer questions. They will not stick their head out until they have the exact perfect question. And boys, I mean, it's like leaving the house. My husband will leave the house looking like hell. He'll go to the grocery store. He literally looked like he just woke up. I will not go to the grocery store until I brush my hair, brush my teeth, wash my face, put the appropriate clothing out, and then I go out because I have to look professional. Men don't care. Women care. And this is not a stereotype. This is how we're raised as children in the United States. I don't know about other countries, but I know this is here. Sandy's point is 100%. Hormones, sure, but let's not say women have hormones. That's not it at all. Women are perfectionists because that's what they're told they have to be in school. And then they try to bring that to reffing, and reffing is the one place that will not work. Otherwise, you will just, it won't work for you in reffing. So I think this is where little girls are learning, and this is why reffing is so good for little girls. It teaches them it's okay to make mistakes. You know, it's okay, you're going to be fine. And once they learn that, it's a freedom for little girls that they can go out and try new things and not be afraid to make mistakes, to look dumb, to, you know, to try new sports, and to just go for it and say yes. I mean, this whole concept in USA of say yes to officiating, I say it's just say yes to anything. Like, just try it. And once little girls, I think, try it, and little boys, we're going to get our numbers up. But it's a tricky balance. But we need more people like Sandy to encourage them, and like Roy and like Sonia and Patty to get these little ones to participate. So thanks, Sandy.
Okay, thank you.
So before we closing this session, any other questions, remarks, somebody who would like to say anything? Let me see the gallery. I think that we can wrap it up. Puya, do you want to say anything?
Elvis, I see Elvis, one of the guys I worked with before.
Thank you,
Hello.
Pati.
Hi.
So,
Hi.
From India.
Patty, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
really very interesting conversation.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Patty.
See you, everyone. Nice to meet
See
you,
everyone.
Keep in touch.
Thanks for being here, you guys.
Thank you very
It's
much.
an honor.
Stay tuned. I hope to have some more meetings like that. We have some other ideas coming up really soon. And hopefully to continue this
big
project that we've been doing from the last years and everything and doing now. It's really fun to talk like that and passing the time. This is our passion, I guess. And this passion has to be contagious to all the young other people who are around, and to bring them together to our family and everything. So stay safe. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you,
Bye bye,
Roy.
guys. Bye bye.
See you.